Welcome to the part 2 of date time functions. In this session, we will learn about date, month, year, and time functions. As you are aware, date time functions help with date formats and help us to manipulate the time related or date related columns. Let's consider our employee details table. Here are the some of the columns and rows of the dataset. Now let's say your analytics team wants you to retrieve the employee details along with the hire date in a new date column. So let's say we want to create a new column which has the hire date. So depending on our requirement, we can return the hire date as shown in the table. So how we can do is we can simply use date function. Within the date function, we can provide hire date as the column and it will return this date in a new column. Now let's say there is a slight modification of the problem. Your analytics team want to retrieve the employee details along with the month that they got hired. So instead of date, now we want to fetch month. So we can also return month using a very intuitive month function. Now within this function, we can provide a date column, which is hire underscore date. And then because for April, the month number is 4, it returns 4. January, month number is 1, it returns 1. Similarly for other rows. Also, we can return the hire year as shown within this table. Likewise, let's explore these functions and more functions such as how to extract hour, minute, seconds on our database, on Metabase. We can use now to generate a timestamp column, which we can use further to extract hour, minute, second from our date time column. Now let's see how we can do this in Metabase. So first we will see the contents of our table. So we will do select star, then we'll read data from employee table. So table name is employees underscore detail. So I'll run this. We can see the table. Now first we want to extract the date from hire date column. So we will select star to select all the columns, and to extract the date we will use date function. So I can use hire underscore date and let's name it as date underscore expected, and we'll provide the table name which is employee underscore detail. So if we run this command, we will see that it will extract date. You can see that it has extracted date, right? So hire date was already a date function, so it did not change much for us. But if even in case it was date time, then it would have extracted date. Now let's say we want to extract the month. So we can do select star and the function is very intuitive, which is month. Now these functions are not case sensitive. I can provide capital also or letters also. So our column name is hire underscore date, and let's say provide month underscore extracted. Then our data set, which is hire underscore detail. So running this, it will extract the month for us. So we can see that the month number has been extracted. We get 4 for April. For January, we get 1. Right now, let's say we want to extract year. So we can do that again using select star, and we can use, let's say, capital year. And within this, I provide the column name, which is hired. So using this, the code will extract the year from hire date column. So let's say we call this year extracted, and then our table name, which is employees detail. So I can again run this and we will see that the year has been extracted, right? So by default, this year gets converted into a numeric column. You can see that this is comma separated by default. All right. Now let's say we want to extract hour, minute and second also. So now what we'll do, we'll extract hour, minute and second. So let's create a new column using now. I'll use select star using now. We'll let's say create current date time, right? And now what I'll do is I'll extract R from this now. So let's name it as expected. Then we can extract minute also. Again, the function is very intuitive, which is minute. Again, I can provide now. And let's call it as minute extracted. And let's create another column which will extract second. So for extracting the seconds, we'll use second function like this, and let's rename it to second extracted. Now let's read our data set using from close like this. Now let's run this. All right, now let's see what has happened. So we created a new column using now. So it is showing us the current date time of the UTC time zone, and then this is extracting hour, which is, so 5 p.m. could be written as 17, right? And then minute is 19, so we can see 19 here. And seconds by default is not visible here, but it is extracting, which is 60. Now if I run this again, then you will see that the second will definitely change, right? And like this. All right, now let's tackle a slightly more involved problem. Suppose now I would like to get minimum salary month-wise from when employees were hired. Can you figure out the code for this? Pause the video and try to write the query yourself and then proceed once you are done. All right, now let's see how we can accomplish this. So we want to find minimum salary across months based on when they were hired. Right, so based on what month they were hired, we want to find the minimum salary for that particular month. So what I'll do is I'll do select, and because we want to group it by month, so I'll extract month out of hire date. So from hire date, we extract the month, let's say month underscore hire. And then I want to find minimum of salary. So we have a salary column, and let's say this is the minimum salary, right? From our database, which is employee and detail table, right? Now we want to group it by month, right? So I'll do group by month, right? Now I can use this column name directly in group by, and then I can do order by. Let's say we want to order it from January to Feb, so I can order it by month. By default, it is descending. So by default, it is ascending. So now if I update this and run this, we can see that what was the minimum salary across the different months of joining. And you can see that in January it is low. Then it increases till March, right? And again, it is hovering around 20. Alright, now let's say similarly, we want to get the maximum salary year-wise from when the employees were. So based on the year in which they hired, we want to get the maximum salary. Again, try to pause the video and do this yourself, then come back to the answer. So I want to get max salary year-wise based on the joining date. So again, we'll do select. I would recommend you to follow a particular order when you write your SQL state. For example, always start with from and then write the table name, right? And then, so you have to follow the sequence of execution, the way the SQL query executes, right? Then you have to write group by. So we have to group it by year column. Let's say we want to extract year, right? We call it year extracted. And then in the select, we will use year function. And I'll select this using hire date. This will be year extracted, right? And then the second thing is we want to find the max. We want to find the max of salary. So we can rename it as max salary, right? And after select, order by gets executed. So we can provide order by year extracted, right? So now we can run this. This will show us across years what is the maximum salary. In 2010, 164K was the max salary, and then years. So the max salary has not increased a lot. See this trend. From 2003, 2015, it is almost around 160. In 2016, it jumps to 166K, which was similar in. Alright, so we looked at two scenarios. In scenario 1, we found out month-wise minimum salary, so we extracted month from date. And in scenario 2, we found out year-wise maximum salary. We extracted year using the date column. Now let's summarize. So we looked at date function that returns date from a date time column. Then we looked at month function which returns month from date time column. Then there was a year function to return year, right? And we also looked at hour, minute, and second. So they extract the hour, minute, second respectively from the date time column. So this is the general syntax of the date time function. Similarly, like we looked in the last session. So we write the function, and within the function, we provide date time column. Now in the next lesson, we will continue learning about more date time function. That's all from this session. Let's meet in the next one.